Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk through configuring advanced features within Defender for Endpoint. So hope you enjoy this. We're going to walk through each configuration item, talk a little bit about what it does, and hopefully you learn something. So here we go. Alright, so to get started, we go to obviously security.microsoft.com, go to our settings, go to endpoints, and then we're going to advanced features. Alright, so the first one here, automated investigation. I've done a video on this, so you can check that one out for more detail. But what this is this is going to just enable the capability, right? So that you're not configuring an automated investigation with this. This is just enabling the capability for you to use automated investigation. So automated investigation, what happens? Something happens on the machine, informational, high severity alert, what have you. Automated investigation will kick off, and it's able to scan through thousands of entities in the matter of 30 minutes or so. So it's a great tool to use. Definitely something we recommend to have turned on. Live response. So this allows us to open up a remote shell on any endpoint that is onboarded into Defender for Endpoint. So live response actually requires auto investigation to be turned on in order for this to work. So if you're going to live response into a machine, remember that machine needs to be into automated investigation and needs to have some sort of remediation level assigned to it. Live response for servers, exact same thing as our live response option here. They're just giving us the ability to either enable it for endpoints and not servers, or vice versa, what have you. Live response unsigned script execution. So this allows us to upload PowerShell scripts into live response and run those on machines we're live response into. I just did it today, where I had to. I was wanting some performance diagnostics and was running the performance analyzer tool from Defender. Uploaded that into a live response session, kicked it off on the machine, pulled the stats, and was able to start troubleshooting. So this is a great tool. It's also great to have, a great feature to have readily available in case of a breach. There's a ton. I'll put a link in the description. There's a ton of good PowerShell commands specifically built around live response that some of the Microsoft Premier field engineers have written. So definitely something that's cool to check out. And I'll probably be doing a live response video / tutorial here coming soon as well. All right, always remediate PUA. This is a global setting, so this is going to block potentially unwanted apps that could, slow down performance, potentially be malicious, that kind of thing, like your adware, things like that. This is going to block that. So this is a global setting. This is going to work whether it's configured on the local device or not, right? If you leave this off, then it's going to rely on the device config, either locally or some management profile they're using, Intune, SCCM, things like that. But this is an option that we have to configure this within the MDE portal. Restrict correlation to within scope device groups. This one, there's a reason I have it left off. This is mostly for scenarios where like your SOC folks want to limit alert correlations, only to device groups that they can access. So say, picture you have a huge environment, multiple SOC teams, maybe based off geolocation, something like that. Then this may come into play where you would, have this set up to where they could only look at things that they can access, right? Because if they can't access it, they can't investigate. But what it does is, instead of us being able to see the whole landscape as far as our devices and the alerts, this is going to scope those to device groups. So if I have one device, say device 1 and device group 1, device 2 and device group 2, device 1 and device 2 both have an alert around the same thing. Maybe Mimikatz was found on both machines, right? Instead of me seeing an incident now with multiple alerts, multiple devices, I'm only going to see an alert if I'm filtered in my portal on device group 1 or device group 2. So you can see where it could be challenging to kind of investigate that way. This is even a feature Microsoft doesn't even recommend turning on. Microsoft actually, their stance on it is they don't recommend turning this setting on unless doing so outweighs the benefits of incident correlation across the entire org. So reason I don't have it on, I don't particularly like it, but it's more of a preference in your environment. EDR and Block Mode. This is going to work behind the scenes to remediate malicious artifacts that are detected post-breach. And this is going to work whether you're using Defender AV in the full stack, meaning Defender AV and Defender EDR, or if you're using Defender for Endpoint, EDR, with a third-party AV. So that's kind of what this was originally, the original intent for this was so that Defender for Endpoint could play nice with third-party AVs. Now, it's still what it's meant for. Definitely helpful, mid migration, right? Because if you migrate from a third-party product to Defender, other deployments you're kind of bare as far as protection on that device at times, depending on how the migration is. This isn't like that. So we can onboard devices that have third-party AVs. They'll be in Defender. We can allow EDR and Block Mode to block anything that gets by those third-party AVs, while we're working through the process of removing that third-party AV on the machine. So this is another great setting to have turned on. Automatically resolve alerts. This is just going to get rid of any alert that's in the portal if automated investigation doesn't find anything, or if it's successfully gotten rid of all the nasty stuff that's on the machine. This is if someone manually sets the status of an alert to in progress or resolved, then the auto resolve feature will not overwrite that. So if you're in there and you're working on something, auto resolve's not going to overwrite that. So just a note there on that feature. Allow or block file. So this was what basically gives us some of the manual control within Defender. So obviously we have our AV and EDR detections and things like that. This is what is going to allow us to block potentially malicious files on our network, things like that. So once we block this, this enables us to use custom indicators in the block feature. Once we start blocking things, adding indicators and things like that, as well as excluding from whether it be automated investigation or AV, that's where all this comes into play. So obviously leave this one on. It's kind of what lets the product do its job. Custom network indicators. So what this allows us to add IPs, domains, URLs, file hashes, certificates to our list of indicators in an allow or block state. So this can be used as some, blocking IOCs. This can also be used for exclusions. This is actually, when we talk through exclusions, this is one of the most powerful exclusions within, Defender. So use this very cautiously whenever you're excluding something, right? This does rely on network protection being enabled, so keep that in mind. And yeah, it's a great feature. So there's also one of the integrations between Defender for Endpoint and Defender for Cloud Apps relies on custom network indicators. So if we were to block a SaaS app, web app in Defender for Cloud Apps, that would then, with the integration turned on, that would then add all the associated URLs with that web app, SaaS app, to our custom network indicators list in a block state, and it does that automatically. So that's just kind of a few things you can do with custom network indicators. Tamper Protection, definitely this is #1 on our best practice list, which I'm also going to do a video on. This is going to prevent bad actors as well as kind of careless end users from tweaking any of the AV settings, right? So if you look at some of the more recent attacks, supply chain attacks and things like that, Tamper Protection could have stopped quite a bit. So this is a great setting. I'm going to do a video on Tamper Protection and troubleshooting mode. Troubleshooting mode just came out where you can temporarily turn this off on a single machine versus this global setting here. So lots of good stuff on the way. Show user details. This is just going to make sure that everything we have or see within Defender for Endpoint is enriched with Azure AD details. So not too much in that one. Skype for business integration. So the naming here is kind of misleading. What this is in the case we would have to isolate a machine from the network, this is going to allow us to still continue to communicate with that end user. And it's going to allow us to do that whether it be Outlook, Teams, or Skype for Business if you're still using it. So great feature there to be able to still communicate with the end user. Defender for Identity integration. This is going to kind of connect the portals for us. If there's, with this integration, if we're in here, we're looking at a device, if it has any alerts related to it in Defender for Identity, we'll just see a little pop-up that says, you know, hey, one alert related to this device in MDI. We can click on it. It'll pivot over to the portal. 365 Threat Intelligence connection. So this one is going to connect to Defender for Office. So what this is going to do is this gives us the ability, you know, say we're investigating a file. This is going to allow us to see, you know, hey, I know this file's nasty. With this connection, I can now see if that file is in anyone's inbox in my organization. So it's a great tool. I've used it plenty of times during incident response. This is a great tool to have turned on to help out our investigation. It also, if we use this and find a file to someone's inbox, it allows us to pivot over to the Defender for Office portal, and then we can then delete that file from the user's inbox. Defender for Cloud Apps. This is going to forward all the Defender for Endpoint device signal to Defender for Cloud Apps, and that's what's going to give us that shadow IT. So shadow IT, that's where we're able to kind of see, you know, what folks are doing as far as SaaS app web apps are concerned. Also gives us some control over those web apps. So Defender for Cloud Apps is another great product. I'll have a series on it. But this is to send that signal. Alternatively, we could create a log collector, right? So that would require us to stand up a box, put a Docker image on it, and configure a log collector, and then send those logs to Defender for Cloud Apps. A little bit more involved versus this kind of one-click integration here. Web content filtering. So keep in mind this, at the end of the day, this is an EDR product. This allows for category-based web content filtering. So what we can do is, you know, create a web content filtering policy, block by category, and then, you know, if we're trying to block like high bandwidth traffic or something, and YouTube's a part of that, right? We want to allow YouTube to be allowed for maybe, you know, specific device groups or something for research. Then what we could do is we'd block that via web content filtering. We'd use custom network indicators to exclude YouTube from that policy. So, you know, one of the things here, although it's not as granular as some of your actual web content filtering solutions, this policy does follow the device. So, you know, in some of those remote scenarios where, you know, your Zscaler or whatnot isn't going to be able to reach those users at home, this is going to follow the device. So, pretty handy to have in that aspect to just kind of block the no-brainers, right? Forwarding the Defender for Endpoint signal to the unified audit log. So over in the Compliance Center, if we go to audit, now we can see, you know, different things that are happening on the Defender for Endpoint side. Download quarantine files. This allows us to download files directly from the portal. So from there, we can, you know, detonate those in a sandbox for the research. In the case of a false positive, if we need to give that file back to the user, you know, we could use this to do that as well. Share endpoint alerts with Compliance Center. So if you're utilizing insider risk management, this will send endpoint alerts to that risk management program. So if you're like deleting a bunch of local files all of a sudden or something like that, that's going to send all that over to insider risk, which would then contribute to your insider risk management score. Authenticated telemetry. This is going to prevent spoof telemetry from your dashboard. So if someone was able to get your workspace key and ID, this will prevent them from onboarding the device and then, you know, spoofing telemetry into your dashboard. The Microsoft Intune connection. Connecting this is going to share device information, kind of the auto connector, and send the onboarding information over to Intune. So this connection actually prevents us from having to download the Intune profile or onboarding profile and upload that. So I actually have another video on how to onboard via Intune, where we go in and figure out how to, you know, connect this two-part connection and then, you know, deploy via Intune. So make sure to check that video out. Device discovery. This is going to allow us to use devices that are already onboarded to find other devices that have not been onboarded. So this is able to look for routers, different things like that, and then also give us vulnerability management data on those devices that can't be onboarded into Intune. So this is a great feature as well. Highly recommend checking it out. And then the last one's just preview features. So this is just anything that's out in preview. Leaving this on, we'd be the first to try it out as far as that preview feature is concerned. Endpoint attack notifications. So this is going to, with an E5 license, I believe right now, they've kind of gone back and forth on this quite a bit. So this basically allows us to have Microsoft kind of monitor and see if there's any targeted attacks in our environment, and then they would notify us and take a look and help us out with it. So you can apply here. Once you hit apply, it's going to pop up, ask for your name, and then you submit that. And if you're approved, you'll know that you can then use the attack notifications. Yeah, so that is actually the last setting in our advanced features. Like I said earlier, I have a couple more videos that I'm going to come out with here very soon. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. As always, I've seen a couple of folks interact and provide feedback and requests for future videos. I totally appreciate that. Keep them coming. Always like to do new things and different things. So keep the suggestions and requests coming. And that's going to be it for today's video on Defender for Endpoint Advanced features. Thank you.